Hello, and welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at DiabloIncGamers.com. I am your host, Flux. If I remember how to do this anymore, it's been a while. Joining me on the show today are two brand new first-time guests. First off is N3rdwords, is that what we're calling me?
Yes, hello.
And that's spelled with a 3 because you're Leet.
I'm really cool, yes.
And you were the author of that Who Says Wizards Are Overpowered guide we posted a few weeks ago, I believe?
Yeah, that was me.
At least I hope so, or I'm completely confused.
Yeah, no, we're just the same person, just moving through different timelines.
And you're obviously a big Wizard fan, and let me introduce the other guy first, then you can go into your history of Diablo playing and stuff and why people should listen to you because you're important on the podcast. And our other guest is, what is your online name we're going by
Empty1.
Here? Empty1, I thought that was it. And this is your first time on the show?
First time on the show. Long-time reader, long-time listener of the podcast. Glad we're getting another one out there.
Okay, we're just going to change order here. You can go first since you're talking right now. Give us like in a minute and a half or whatever why people should listen to you, why you're important, why your opinions matter. Have you been playing the Diablo games forever? You said you're a long-time listener of the site.
Oh yeah.
Is this the highlight of your gaming life right now?
This is up there. We'll see if it continues beyond this. If I continue to be a guest, it might be. I played Diablo 1 on PC, single player only, way back when that launched. I got the Hellfire expansion for that. Played like every class. That's kind of a tradition of mine, is to play every class. People say they're done with a game. I'm like, try another class.
That's not allowed anymore. You have to play the same class forever.
Well, it's certainly not efficient for those people who believe that efficiency is how you play Diablo 3 the best. However, it's very enjoyable to say, which character do I want to play today, since we didn't quite get the fulfillment of the promise of what do I want to do today. So played that just offline, got Diablo 2 when that launched, played that online quite a bit, played all the way through the expansion, played only about a year after that. So I missed a lot of the changes that they made to Diablo 2 that is said to be making it the best online game ever.
Yeah, you missed all the changes.
Yeah,
so you missed like 12 years of changes.
Yes, I missed 12 years of excellent support by Blizzard, which gives me hope for this game. Then I went on to play some console gaming. I got a little bit into the first-person shooters, unfortunately, but when Diablo 3 was announced, it dragged me back. I bought a PC for this game. I've put way too many hours into this game. Played all the characters, both softcore and hardcore. Paragon over 300 in both of those categories as well. Really enjoying right now some of the changes that are happening to the characters, and it's making me want to play some of the ones that I have pushed off to the side, and so I'm excited to talk about that later.
Okay, we'll definitely get into that, but let's jump back to N3rdwords here in his intro. And you only ever play wizards, right? You got 15 wizards and no other classes at all.
No, I actually have the other classes. In vanilla, I leveled all the classes up to 60, but I've only moved my witch doctor up to 70 aside from my wizard. I don't know. I love casters. Pretty much every game I play casters.
Was that what you did in Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 as well?
Yeah, Diablo 1 I started, I was, I think, 8 when that game came out, but I got it pretty close to release, and I played through Warrior, I believe, first, but I didn't hit max level on anything besides a Sorcerer ever in that game, and played that a bunch, played it online and offline. It was the first online PC game I played, and then moved that straight into Diablo 2, like Empty1 here. And we played literally every ladder reset, me and all my friends, for years and years and years and years, till probably like the I'd say like 2008, 2009, we finally started venturing off into console gaming, kind of like he did as well. But yeah, bounced back to Diablo 3 as soon as it came out in 2012, and been playing pretty much ever since.
And you wrote an article that we posted a few weeks ago about wizards are not being overpowered.
Right.
And that was the whole narrative early in Reaper of Souls, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Wizards, everyone loved, the new glacial spike and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And they were like super, super strong. But we had on the little audition podcast I recorded with you a couple weeks ago, you and the other guy were both going on about wizards. Just coincidentally, you were both big wizard fans, right?
Right.
And it's like wizards are really overpowered when you first get into like Torment 1 and 2 and 3, and then you guys both seem to think they max out at kind of a Torment 4.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, like, that's something, and you're seeing it now, too. If anyone's playing the live game, like, the state of the wizard. Like, there's a nickname running around called Wizdog because wizards are running about the same amount of DPS as one of the Witch Doctor's pets. So it's, I don't know. We get gear fast.
But you're much sexier, though.
Yes, much better looking, that's for sure, especially the Asian chick. But I don't know. We top out pretty quickly. We get gear pretty quick. It's easy for us to gear out, especially with the plethora of fire gear and conflag builds rolling around. But I don't know. Once you hit T4, it starts getting hard to push that ceiling unless you've got a really good veer set roll. I mean, you can hit T6. I can run it pretty well. It's just not nearly as efficient as some of the other classes right now, and that's a lot of the complaining that was going on. Because I remember early, like I said, the whole point of that post was people were crying for wizard nerfs when, without any nerfs at all, you're seeing where we're at right now towards the end of the 2.0 cycle going into 2.1.
So was that a sort of people just had to find better gear with other classes, or was it more understanding different builds?
I think it's mostly that. I think it's just the gear curve. It's really wizards are all elemental based. Now, mind you, all classes are pretty much at this point anyways, but wizards more so than any of them. So like the plus to, to spell damage, the plus to elemental damage, it really ramps up fast for a wizard, but eventually you top out and you just don't have the survivability to take it into T5, T6.
And to get you in here, Empty1, have you wizarded that
Oh,
much?
yeah,
Are you knowledgeable? Would you agree with what he's saying, or is he
I totally
wrong?
agree.
Tell him why he's wrong.
Oh, you want me to take the counterpoint?
We need conflict on the podcast.
Yeah,
The
right.
reason you're wrong is because Arcane Orb was overpowered at one point, so now we're just going to nerf everything now.
Yeah.
I completely agree with him. Not only does the wizard not do enough DPS at the high end, but the survivability is just lacking.
It's so bad.
You have one build that's possible, and it's a fire build.
Mhm.
You can't even run your sets. I mean, you can. I guess you could run an Archon in the build.
Well, to add on to that too, though, the fire build that's doing well in the higher difficulties is a spender-based build, not a spender, builder-based build. Like it's conflag, it's magic missile.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people
Magic
don't even
missile,
run a spender.
and then with the buffs, people are going to start running Mammoth Hydra with it,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're not even going to be nuking the way that the wizard should be. There's not going to be
Mm-hmm.
any meteors falling, nothing like that. You're firing fireballs, and hopefully 3 of them with mirror ball, over
Right.
and over and over again. But there's so little diversity with that class in the higher torments, and there are other classes that are hurting there too. But the survivability is completely not there either. Even if you build completely for survivability, you have no way of keeping the enemies far enough away from you. You could run mirror mimics on mirror image and buy a little time for yourself every once in a while, but then that forces you to build into cooldown, and that's not as valuable of a stat for a wizard anyway. Right. So from my experience, I've topped off, and I have a fair amount of gear around T4 with my wizard, and I can run that, and that's a little bit painful. Whereas I can use my Crusader or Demon Hunter or Witch Doctor and blow through T4 like it's T1. So it's just...
Especially witch doctors right now, too. Witch doctors are just disgusting.
Yeah, I agree. The Witch Doctors have some great abilities right now, but at the same time, they were horrible all the way through vanilla.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm kind of glad they're getting some love, but I just want everyone else to get up to their par. I don't feel like they're broke.
I definitely agree.
I would just like to see monks and wizards and, of course, barbs and crusaders get up there, too. Like, it would just be really nice to push everyone. Demon hunters are fine, whatever.
Demon Hunters are doing okay overall in my mind, but of course I'll be crucified for saying that because
right.
The dev said monks are just fine right now, and they're eating their words on that comment. But Demon Hunters, when you run the Marauder set, no diversity in builds there, and you have your turrets just destroying everything for you, and your pets keeping them off of you, they do just fine. Yep. So they need to figure out a way to help the wizard to get them to where they're capable of running the higher torments as well, and efficiently.
The complaint I've heard about Demon Hunters is that obviously they're really powerful with the Sentry thing, but that's basically just because you're casting 2 more of yourself.
Right.
But that kind of makes... That's what I think when you guys mentioned the wizard thing. It's like you don't have... Like, imagine if wizards had a way to cast, 30-second living... Hydras that lasted 30 seconds and cast other cool spells, and you had pets. You'd be a Demon Hunter, right?
And the thing is, they can make those adjustments to skills that already exist. Make it so you can already drop 2 Hydras. They're not that powerful.
Right.
We don't want the Demon Hunter and the Wizard build that are good, because it's the same thing with different colors of attack, right?
That's
if
true.
Theory of Wizard is like... I'm not real... I don't have the gear to Demon Hunter on that level, but I don't even want to play a Demon Hunter that way. I mean, that's like... I like the the pew pew style where you're dashing around. That's kind of what you guys are. That's like the cat. I enter the Demon Hunter a lot in D3 because it's actually the most like a casting wizard from the old days.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that wasn't really the case once Reaper of Souls came out because you had Glacial Spike and other new powers. all the really powerful wizard stuff in vanilla was like what, blizzards and hydras.
Well,
and
really, I mean, that was early builds, but CM just took off. I mean,
Oh yeah, that eventually. But
Yeah.
that just seems like an exploit the whole time, And plus playing hardcore, it's like if you make
Oh,
one
yeah.
misclick, you're done.
Yep.
That wasn't really an option for me in hardcore. So you're right. But I mean, initially it was all this AOE stuff with wizards, and you just kind of run in circles while things died on your blizzards.
yeah,
And
throw
now
a
that's
little
what Demon
lightning
Hunters
at them
do,
as well.
except yeah, now Demon Hunters you cast sentries and run in circles while they die from your sentries.
Which
And
is
it's
actually kind of ironic to where wizards are in Greater Rifts right now in 2.1, but I guess we'll get there.
yeah, and I'm not real drawn to these play styles, but obviously it's got to be tougher. First of all, it's really really tough to balance builds so they work at T1 and T2 and T4 and T6. I mean, things just scale up so much, right? And we've seen these fixes, exploding palm had to be nerfed, that kind of thing. So a more general question for you guys on builds and stuff. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of build variety and a lot of options to play and a lot of gear options up to like T2. And then as you get to like T4, that gets streamlined a lot. As you say, there's one wizard build that works there. Other classes have a little more variety maybe. And you get to T6 and there's just like one build, if that many, that works.
For all but one class.
Yeah.
Well, it requires gear, but the Crusader's in such a different place than everyone else right now because once you have a con set, you can run basically whatever you want to run because you got perma Akarat's champion. So if they got some other classes to the point where their sets just made them extremely powerful, but you could pick what you wanted to do with that power, I think we'd be in a better place.
Is it an optimistic, a realistic goal for developers to have, okay, every class will have 5 viable builds at T6?
See, I don't.
Or is it just never going to happen?
See, that's optimistic. Definitely don't find it realistic. I mean, like you can't. I mean, anyone who's played any other MMO or RPG or even console game, I mean, you've always got imbalance, especially at harder difficulties, because, especially in Diablo 3, like you said, T1, T2, like, pretty much any build will go. But once you start hitting T4, it starts bottlenecking, and then Torment 6, it's like, well, there's usually 1 or 2 builds per class, unless you're, like he said it earlier, Crusader. So it's a matter of, like, trying to balance that, but I feel like it would be better if there was just, like, at least 2 or 3 builds, or even just 2 or 3 different elements for each class that was like viable, rather than it just being the one, if that.
Yeah, I think that should be their goal. I think they've accomplished making everything viable through T1. You can run rares and play in T1 and T2.
Right.
But right now they need to be fixing the issue that is you are pigeonholed into a specific build on basically every character, and then like a monk, you don't even really have a build that works well there. You got a couple of people doing T6 without being 0 DPS and not having their team technically carry them. But there's not really any options there that are high damage output for that character at the moment that allow them to compete at that level. So I think 2 or 3 builds for every class would be great if they would focus on that. But the legendary gems actually that they are introducing kind of might accomplish that in my mind.
It's definitely seemed to have helped, that's for sure.
Yeah, it gives you a lot more options with what you want to do. My fear is that 2 or 3 of them will become the most powerful, and everyone will run the exact same thing still. So,
Well, isn't that how it always goes in Diablo?
that's exactly right.
Unlike equipment, which is so varied. between
Right,
classes.
yeah. No one's running
You
Royal
never
Rings.
see 2 Demon Hunters in the same gear specs.
Yeah.
Everyone's got really, really different gear. Oh wait, I have exactly the same gear.
Well, it's got different numbers on it.
Yeah, there is
Slightly.
that. Yes. Sometimes they have different colors too.
Oh, yeah, we can dye our outfits now. And transmog, we're going to be able to transmog other items into our own set pieces. I'm excited.
So you'll look different, even though you're exactly
No,
the same
everyone will
inside.
now look exactly the same, except maybe a different color because they'll want the set piece.
That was like that Burger King Pride Whopper logo, right?
Yeah.
They had this week. We're all the same inside or whatever. So you'll look different, but you'll all be the same inside. I.e., you'll have the exact same gear.
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, obviously we can compare to every other game in the world. Every other RPG and ARPG kind of has the same thing, and it seems like maybe there's higher standards now for Diablo 3. Or, I mean, I think back to Diablo 2, and obviously there were some builds that were better than others, but I think it just seems like the problem we've had in Diablo 3 all along is that there's so much more scaling on the difficulty, so much more sort of customization of your difficulty level. Whereas, like Diablo 3, the hardest it ever got was like T2 or T3 equivalent or something like that. And there were builds that could probably have done much harder.
Right, and
really the only thing that was that challenging was Uber Tristram.
back then you were allowed to actually gear the way you wanted for if you wanted to get more magic find. Now the only way to really get rewarded for that is to play on super high difficulties.
Or,
So
well,
making difficulty control how much gold and XP and magic find you have, they are forcing people to gear into specific builds.
And see, well, even with that said, though, Diablo 2 is kind of the same way. You know, it was fine if you're doing cow level, if you're doing, players 8, whatever, cow levels. But if you were doing Uber runs, smite paladins, or you're not going to do it, period. Like, just period. You got to have a smite paladin in that group. You're not going to run it with, 5 or 6 frozen orb sorceresses. It's never going to happen. So it's still, even back in those games and a lot of other games, once you get to the higher difficulties, there just becomes a point where it just bottlenecks everything.
And now it should all be different in Diablo 3, and every class should have 3 or 4 or 5 different builds to do that with.
I think it definitely should be their goal to get that, but I don't know if it's possible.
Right, like I said, optimistic, but not necessarily realistic.
If they brought back Jay Wilson, could they do it?
He could definitely double all the damages for skills that don't work.
Well, that would fix it right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's actually the hard part for the developers. Not Jay Wilson. The other hard part for developers is that it's going to be tempting to just say, hey, let's just slap another 150% damage on this skill and make it equivalent. Yeah. And but they don't want to do it that way. They want things to work in different ways. They don't want to just have, okay, every class has got 3 different versions of the same thing that do 8,000 damage per second or whatever. Obviously, that's not a big enough number, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And they want to make it, okay, this skill is good because it's DOT, and this skill is good because it's got a CC effect, and this is whatever. And then players just sort of end up just wanting all DPS sometimes, especially in
Unfortunately,
softcore.
they missed the boat on that back when Travis Day, before 2.1 or 2.0 ever came out, and he said that we were going to have elemental effects. That actually could cause that to happen. Ooh, I can freeze everyone. Well, you can with Frostburns. But I can freeze everyone when I'm attacking. That's actually beneficial. Fire's the only one that really stuck around, and that's the fact that you can up your damage so much with that type. And there's not really anything to compete with it. But, I mean, when they had the idea of, like a stun chance on lightning, you could build around that.
Yeah, that was the crits. It used to be all the crits had... If people actually go to the critical hit page in DiabloWiki.net, we have that archived info from back in, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And, fire criticals would set them on fire for a DOT thing, and lightning would stun them, and others, they all had different little effects. I think physical was a knockback or whatever.
Yeah, well, Travis, he commented before 2.0 came out, so after vanilla, that they were going to implement that, and it didn't wind up happening. I really wish they would consider it, or give everyone a way to enable it within their build, those effects.
Well, a lot of skill runes do that kind of thing. There's some of them that add a stun or add a knockback or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then skill runes now have just become different flavors of the same thing that work with your plus elemental damage.
They're all just different elements.
So no one would ever use cold because it chills. You'd use cold because you have 3 items that add 20% cold damage.
Exactly.
So it's just, which I guess, again, it's just sort of the complexity of things. Like we were mentioning a minute ago, that removing Magic Find created a whole new can of worms where all that matters now is difficulty level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whatever you do, it's like everything they change opens up some stuff and closes off other things at the same time. And making video games is hard, apparently.
Apparently.
I think
at least balancing.
Making good video games is hard, and I'll go out on a limb and say that this is a good video game, even though lots of people complain daily about it.
Yeah, no.
Usually the ones who play 8 hours a day are the ones who complain the most. It's like, I hate this. I only played 7 hours today. It's like, wait, what?
And I think that's a testament to the Diablo fan base. I mean, we're all kind of crazy. Let's be real. For us to be able to jump into a game and do the same thing repeatedly for literally years, we all have to have a little bit of crazy in us, but it's just so dang fun.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of crazy, both you guys are on the PTR lately. Have you done Greater Rifts? Have you experienced that? Other than the wild, occasional exploits, do you like the overall concept?
I actually haven't gotten into Greater Rifts yet. I've done a lot of reading and I've done some farming and haven't got any keys yet. I just haven't been able to do enough testing, but I've been doing a lot more reading on it, and it seems like it's going pretty well. But I just balancing it out and getting the bugs worked out with the Witch Doctor and some of the other classes and stuff, and the whole thing with TPing back to town with the furnace that Wyatt Chang tweeted about. I feel like that's something that needs to be dealt with as well. But I mean, I would really like to get in and do some more. Just haven't had that much time yet.
I've played a little bit on the PTR and done some Greater Rifts, gotten to 27-ish with my Crusader, 24 with my Witch Doctor, and nowhere close to that with anyone else. Although I have been soloing with those characters because my friends basically are all playing softcore on there, and I want to focus on hardcore, so I'm ready to go when ladders start because I plan on running a hardcore character through ladders. And of course now being able to reset every day after I lose one of those characters in the Greater Rifts is kind of nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the whole fun of PTR
Yeah.
on a hardcore. If you die, you just re-import your account, and hey, I'm not dead anymore.
Yeah, definitely wanted to experiment with that leading up to the actual launch because I just recently lost my hardcore demon hunter with like a significant amount of stuff on him. So that's the character I'll be playing.
Well, your mistake was the him. So
No, sorry, it is a girl.
Fatal flaw.
But
okay, it wasn't. Oh, well, you
my
shouldn't have died
my
then.
mis
Only male demon hunters should
my
die.
mistake was my grammar, which is severely lacking today, unfortunately. Um, I'm kind of
Let's
worried.
hope you don't make that mistake in a singles bar one night.
Oh,
Hey now,
I'm a
oh.
little worried about balancing on the Greater Rifts because with legendary gems, if they make it so you can only really upgrade them at higher levels, otherwise you have like a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting it in the lower levels, some people will never really be able to upgrade their gems. And if you make it so that you can upgrade your gems with just a double chance or a triple chance by going another 10 levels up, then people will just do the lower level ones so they can upgrade their gems faster. So
So for people who haven't played, who haven't studied greater rifts and legendary gems a lot, explain what the whole upgrading thing means.
okay, so at the end of well, you have a random chance of a gem dropping, and these gems have various effects. Some
And they only drop from
they
guardians.
only
Yes.
drop from Rift Guardians, and I've only gotten ones at the end, like the last level I completed. Like it seems like they don't drop at the earlier levels, which is kind of a positive thing. So you have to work towards a higher level. They have various effects. You can check on that yourself, but there are ones that like improve pet damage or improve damage from range. Basically all damage stuff, since that's what this game comes down to. I guess.
And they have a little thing that says upgrades at level 50 or something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
you can, after you've completed the last level that you do and you fail on, so you kill the Rift Guardian but you didn't do it in time, there is a merchant, I want to say. That's not the right word, but
An
a
NPC,
vendor
yeah.
or a person who's able to upgrade your gems for you. And when you give them the gem, you only get to pick one to upgrade. It has a chance to upgrade it. So if you are at a higher level, there's a higher chance that it gets upgraded. But it's going to be a long-term thing because from my playing around with it, which has only been a little bit since they actually implemented gems, I only got one level apiece per upgrade. So it's going to take a long time to get to 50. And at 50, as you upgrade the gems, they gain extra damage there. So you're doing 20% to start out with from range. Now it's 25% from range if you've leveled it up a few times. But then at level 50, you also unlock a secondary effect of the gem. And so like the pet gem makes it so all your pets are invincible at level 50.
So you'll find the same legendary gem, and then you will want to keep upgrading that gem repeatedly because every time you upgrade it, it gets more powerful. And if you get it really upgraded, it gains another level of power, another property,
Mm-hmm.
and you can keep upgrading that as well. So these are just like you'll just want to upgrade the same gem just dozens of times. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's going to.
And these gems only go in jewelry. Also, people should note. Well, currently they don't, but that's the plan. Is that
Yeah.
they're only going
Right.
to go in rings and amulets. Currently, that's bugged.
Yeah.
So you still have 3 of these at most. You won't have 12 or whatever. Imagine chest armor with 3 of these things in it. It's like whoa.
That's unfortunate, though. I think it would have been a good idea to make some of these effects so that you would not want to run the exact same thing. At least make them an option for weapons, so not everyone has an emerald in their weapon. That was one of their original ideas for legendary gems. I think it'd be cool to be completely decked out in special effects, but then again,
Yeah, see,
everyone would do the same thing with it.
I'm the same way. I feel like it would be really cool to be able to have more options for gemming them. I feel like that would open it up even more, but who knows?
But that would take away all the fun of finding another marquee.
Right?
You're not
Yeah.
excited to get when you find a marquee ruby right now?
Oh God, yeah.
You only got what 1,274 in your stash, but hey, you found another.
And
one.
definitely have
unfortunately, it's
multiple
two
stacks.
stacks. Yeah, it's 2 stacks instead of just going up to 9,999 or something. One more thing, though, about those legendary gems, I think it'd be a really good idea to remove them as a reward from the Rift Guardian, which is random, and put it as something you could buy with blood shards. That way you can pick the gem you want from the beginning instead of having to play and randomly wait on the gems that you actually want to appear and wind up upgrading ones you don't want and then feeling like you got to stick with them because you've already upgraded them. I just think that would be beneficial, and then you could really say you were gambling the shards because there's something you could buy with them too. Don't make it a gamble on it. Make it you can buy the specific one you want.
If you could use the shards to upgrade the gems too, that would be rad. That'd be really cool. After you found something to keep with the RNG theme, but still be able to use the blood shards for something that's a bit more specific.
Mm-hmm. That'd be an interesting idea as well.
who knows what they'll do. I mean, they're obviously they want some things that you can only farm by killing individual monsters
Right.
Right.
instead of just that's kind of what we have with the legendary materials until they took those out because complicated.
Well, it was taking a lot of inventory space, and they didn't want to fix that by giving us the extra tab earlier.
Well, and that's true too, because you could actually, if you were upgrading with shards, you could find it in the Greater Rift and then just run regular rifts to upgrade your gems. So that's probably not the best idea, actually.
Yeah,
now
I
that
don't
think
know
about
if it would work for upgrades.
Larger topic I've been wondering about lately is the death penalty in the game. Obviously, there basically is no death penalty in Softcore, and in Hardcore, it's the ultimate penalty, except every class now pretty much has a way to cheat it if you choose to use that, either via gear
That's your
or
fault, Flux.
passives.
It's your fault.
Yes, I advocated for the Demon Hunter, and it finally came. two years later than we needed it.
Well, a little bit later than I needed it for my Demon Hunter. I just lost a couple of weeks ago.
Well, if you'd been on the PTR, you'd be alive
Oh
still.
man.
But anyway, the thing I'm wondering about the death penalty is it's obviously it's fairly hypothetical and conjectural in the topic, but
I like Diablo 2's method of losing XP, but they're afraid to do that.
There's no way they'll
Yeah,
do that. I kind of miss it though
yeah,
too.
and they're not going to change it. But I mean, I'm just wondering if, like we were mentioning earlier, how they change one thing in the game and it causes like a cascade, a domino effect, and then everything else gets changed because of it.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there was a meaningful death penalty in Diablo 3, other than 10% equipment damage, which is what, 10k gold. I mean, no one even cares about that at a high level.
Right.
I don't know what it would be. You don't want to lose levels or something like that. But I mean, even just the time, the annoyance, the whatever that we used to get. Like I've been playing Diablo 1 some lately, and when you die, you pop. You drop every damn
Right.
thing you're wearing,
Yeah.
and you can only restart in town.
And you had to
Yep.
venture down
And then-
naked too, which is always fun.
and try to get, which is crazy, which is easy if you're a wizard and impossible if you're a warrior,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
right.
But
Got to buy a bunch of stuff.
I mean,
from
that's
Riz.
obviously, that's old school. I remember pre-game, people were talking about death penalties, and Bashiak was like, we don't want to have like cruel things that were in old games like Diablo. People were like, rah, rabble, rabble, rabble.
Well, their original idea, which was an extended death timer, people complained maddeningly about it. Like you have to wait longer because you died twice in a row.
And that was annoying. But I found that really annoying because you were just standing there waiting.
Yes, I agree.
Though, like if you're doing
Put them in
something,
town, make them run back.
I don't know, but I mean, just not even the specifics of what it would be. If there were a more substantial penalty, either in time or lost experience or something, a quarter of your gold vanished.
Yeah.
Do you think that would change the way people play, and would it be positive in some way? People wouldn't have such ridiculous expectations of being able to plow through T6. I mean, if every time you died in Softcore, it was a real pain in the ass, how much would that change how people play in gear?
I mean, it would depend on the penalty. If it was an experience thing, I mean, like right now, Paragon leveling is almost arbitrary. I mean, there's definitely, you want to hit a certain point in it, but at a certain point, you also just go, oh, another point, cool. So, like, if you actually were losing experience and gaining experience back, like, oh, I died, so now, like, then I'd spend the next 10 minutes, like, getting that XP back. You might actually think a little bit more, even playing Softcore, when you're making your build or like figuring out your gear, maybe throw a little more vid on something. But at the same time, I remember playing Diablo 2, and even with that being said, like we were still chain dying through stuff and didn't care. So I don't know.
Yeah, you would just get right above a level, and then if you died, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, then
you
you were
would only
fine.
lose like 500 experience.
Yep.
Right.
But again, that's experience. I mean, there's obviously other forms of penalties.
Well,
I'm just wondering if the overall gameplay would be different or feel more satisfying in some
I
way
think
if
it would have
we're
to
actually
be
trying not to die.
pretty substantial to make people not just corpse run. I mean,
And they already tried taking players' time away. That didn't work. They tried taking gold away, and too much was way too much, especially right now where gold's a little harder to get. So that's not really an option. So really the only thing left is experience, unless you're going to start taking gear away, which that would not go
that
over
would not
well.
work. Although we didn't buy the pieces now, no one was
That's
able to say
technically
I
true.
paid for this.
Performance decrease.
Yeah.
10% drop in DPS every time you
So-
die for 60
Or
seconds.
So-
your frame rates drop 15 every time you die.
Gonna reference a game called Sacred 2 that came out in between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Pretty in-depth game. Had a survival bonus. The more combat you did, the higher your survival bonus got. You got actually higher stats from it, so percentage increases on your main stats. You got increased gold find, increased magic find, and I believe increased experience gain. Put that in the game. Give
That's
a
pretty
survival
interesting.
bonus. And they can really do it now since Sacred 3 is made by a completely different company and will be an abysmal failure. But they can use it and say, hey, we invented the genre. You were copying us with Sacred 2.
That's the other side of the coin. I was going to ask if there's survival bonuses. We got a little bit of that with the yellow water once that came in.
Yeah.
With the pool
But
of reflection, or what the hell it's called.
But
no one cares about experience
Right.
anymore.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that doesn't really do the job.
And even if they did, it's still more efficient to play one higher level as long as you're not dying constantly. you know,
Right.
than being afraid of you losing that 25% bonus. It's bigger to jump a level. That's an
Yep.
issue.
And because, as we said earlier, all the rewards in Diablo 3 are predicated upon your difficulty level now.
Hmm.
So it's always worth it pushing to a higher difficulty level if you're not hardcore, because it'll pay off in more legendary items, even if you die, or because experience doesn't matter.
Right.
So basically, we've had a lot of reasons why death penalties don't work and can't work.
Yeah, which
But it's still a thing. If they somehow were there, could they work? And probably not.
I really just I don't think so. I think honestly the way the game is kind of cheese-tacular as it is with there being almost no death penalty for softcore. I feel like that's where it's got to be at this point because they've kind of exhausted their options unless they want to start taking experience away. But this late in the development cycle, I really don't see them putting in something like that.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, they could buff that yellow water. The yellow water was a good idea, except for the fact it's just not
Now,
enough.
see, regarding the Sacred 2 thing, if they made that the wells or whatever, if they made those give you gold find or magic find or even, like you said, like just main stat or something, that would be pretty interesting. As a softcore player, I could see that being a little bit more incentive.
Yeah,
And it's interesting in hardcore because you just permanently have 10 stats.
Right,
Yeah, because
exactly.
in hardcore you just be ridiculously buffed the whole time, which is awesome.
well, that's a positive thing. I think there should
Yeah.
be a reward.
Yeah, I agree.
Other than experience gain, which no one cares about anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That came up on a last podcast talking about. It's funny because how experience was such a big thing in vanilla. People would do Alakazir runs forever, and people wanted to get to P100.
Right.
And that was like, and now that there's no P100, no one cares about experience. I mean, you'll see, I went from 544 to 545 Paragon level. Whoopie-doo,
I think
0.1% more critical hit damage. Wow.
I think there are people still farming it, which is kind of sad. Running. Well, they were running the Malthael runs over and over and over again. But when they institute, I'd hope they don't cap Paragon. But when they institute a bigger reward at like every 100 levels, you're going to jump up, 5 attack speed every 100 or something. Might have to be bigger than that. But I think that would motivate people a little bit more, especially if like at Paragon 1000, which back in vanilla seemed like no one would ever be able to get that far. Paragon 1000, now people are flying through it. But if at Paragon 1000 you got something awesome like one of your followers stays with you all the time, even in multiplayer, people would aim for those types of things, but they need to set like goals. Some people play on goals. Like my main goal right now is to get a couple of achievements before they nerf them. So they're lowering the amounts required for bounties and lowering the amounts required for kills and rifts. And so some of us are very goal-oriented in our play on the game. And
Are you farming trees in the
I am not doing that one, but I am working
10,000 more splinters?
I probably need a significant, is it 25,000? Yeah, I think it's 25,000. Probably need 15,000, something like that of those.
It's probably a ridiculous number.
It is. But they're moving it down to 2,500 so everyone can have it by playing normally. But shouldn't achievements be something you work towards, at least some of them?
Not anymore. We don't have that in modern games.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You just
Everything should be easy
get it-
and gotten immediately.
you get it
Otherwise
all
it's a struggle.
automatically. It just comes to you.
So the question about leveling, though, you didn't get some. It's funny because I mentioned, no one cares about P100 anymore, and you guys started going into what rewards it could give you,
Right.
and that's certainly one way to think about it. But you didn't get rewards for getting P100 or getting level 99 in Diablo 2. You just got EP.
But there was a
Yeah.
there was a set
virtual EP.
there was a set top level, and back with Paragon 100 being the set top level, people wanted to reach it.
Well, and back then too, the ladder was all experience based. So hitting 99 was important because you were locked in. That was like your spot. Then no one could pass you. So there was a point, but I mean, at the same time, back then, I think that like I would hit 98, and then if someone else capped it out, I was like, well, I'm gonna be 98 forever because I just don't care about that last level.
But some people did, and it was a nice round number, or even not a round number in Diablo 2.
Right.
But I think that's something we were wondering about when they brought the whole Paragon system in and eliminated individual character levels.
Maybe-
It's like, are people going to miss this? Are we going to one day? What if there was? I always thought they should have both. You would level up your character, and every time you got a character level, it also boosted your Paragon total or something. It was some kind of shared thing. Where I didn't like the. I mean, I can understand why they changed it, because in Diablo 3 vanilla, we all felt like we were locked into our main.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had to have 350 MF or more, or else you were just useless.
And now
it's like,
now that doesn't even matter because they would remove the magic find, but you'd still so
Yeah.
many stats that people.
And now you can beat a new character to 70 and give them good gear, and they're instantly as good as someone else who's played a character for 10 years.
Yep.
And I just wonder maybe I don't want us all to feel locked into our mains again, but it seems like we have zero affiliation with our mains. It's all about whatever they're wearing.
Yeah, I definitely kind of wish that Paragon wasn't account wide. I know I'm pretty much in the minority there, but I'm also pretty much exclusive to one class. So,
Well, I actually kind of liked it not being account wide as well because I feel like dying in hardcore, even though I haven't started my female demon hunter back up again yet because I'm waiting for ladders, it just doesn't feel like that big of a deal. I lost some gear. I'm going to have to find that gear again. But getting to 70 is going to take me a day tops. You know, if I had lost 150 Paragon levels with my demon hunter, that would have hurt.
that would make me really sad. That would make me
I was actually
really sad.
laughing when I lost my character because it was my own mistake. I was playing with a couple of friends, and they thought I was laughing because I was mad and acting. And I was like, no, this is just funny. I mean, I remember losing characters in vanilla and really losing them.
I mean, losing a 70+ character in Diablo 2 made me want to put my head through my monitor. So
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine.
And that was back when we actually cared about dying.
Yes.
And now, as we're saying, now it's like, yeah, whatever, just rebuild.
That's right.
But I think that's the state of gaming today, and I think probably more of their fans appreciate that than would like the old days.
Oh, yeah. None of my friends would be playing hardcore right now if they lost everything on death. None of them. They're all semi-hardcore, and I'm kind of that way too because I would have been heartbroken if that had happened back in the day with how far I had advanced her, but I still would have come back after a couple of weeks.
See, those horror stories are the reason why I don't play hardcore in Diablo 3 because I did in Diablo 2. And it was fun and it's great and it's super rewarding, but I won't touch hardcore until I'm just completely bored with softcore because that feeling sucks.
That's where I started. I had done what I could do without an auction house usage because I refused to buy anything except the gold on vanilla, and I was like, I got to do the hardcore thing again. I had fun doing that in Diablo 2. And I started playing that, and I've focused more on that more recently, even though my softcore characters aren't perfectly geared yet.
Yeah.
So maybe that answers my question about death penalties. Currently, hardcore is a halfway death penalty because you don't lose everything because you have Paragon points.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like the middle state of what. Maybe there should be an option you can check on start. Lose all Paragon points upon death.
But it would have to be something visible so everyone could see you did it. Otherwise, no one would ever do it.
Just be a giant purple E-peen glowing over your head at all times. That's all we really want anyway, right?
That's right.
Is there a class that you really, really think needs improvement? We kind of touched on this earlier. Just you want more of variety.
Well, the wizard's hurting, but the monk's not doing well either. I mean, one of the things the monk was really good at was the super low difficulty T1, T2, running through everything with Tempest Rush, and killing it all with your Epiphany, just killing it for you. That's awesome. That's fun. It's not that broken, but they're removing that ability by increasing the channeling cost of Tempest Rush. So instead of fixing the monk, they're removing one of the fast, low difficulty farming methods. So I see the outcry from that group of players because Blizzard's making a decision that is not improving their situation. If they said, oh, we're going to remove the ability to Tempest Rush, but we're going to allow you to do another thing to have permanent Epiphany or something like that, go at half measure rather than completely destroying the build. I think that would be better, but I think the monks are hurting the most right now, unfortunately.
See,
what if they make some of the other skills do bigger damage numbers?
Well, that's going to be their solution, but no, definitely not. It's a completely different game style.
But bigger numbers.
When I'm farming keys, even though I have my Marauders and Dayanetta's Demon Hunter that's super fast, maybe even a little faster than my Tempest Rush Monk, I still run the Monk because it's so much fun. It's just awesome to run past everything and watch them die. And that's what Whirlwind was before, and I never got into it on vanilla, but now I see why it was so enjoyable.
See, for the wizard, I don't know. I'm really interested in a lot of the 2.1 changes, primarily the Firebird set changes, because that dot tick, for those that don't know, the one of the set bonuses is changing to where fire damage resets a 3,000% weapon damage dot for 3 seconds on mobs. So essentially you can cast Magic Missile, have it hit, and then that dot kicks in if you're wearing Firebird. So you're just doing stupid damage. But the problem with that is that fire is pretty much the only thing viable
Exactly.
for a wizard right now. And that said, not even fire. Like you have in the Greater Rifts right now, really the only build that's able to compete is the Gale Force Hydra build. And none of those spells, they're all fire forget. You know, you drop 2 Hydras, cast a couple Gale Forces, and run around in circles while you get a bunch of buff ticks from the Gale Force, and your Hydra eats everything while you're running around
And that's
trying to dodge
exactly how
things.
wizards should work.
Yeah,
You catch two
no.
things and run in circles while they
Yeah,
die. That's so the archetype of the caster. When I think of casters, cast crap and run in circles while it
But-
dies. That's exactly
But
what I want.
unfortunately, I feel like that is the inevitable thing that happens when we have this endless difficulty system.
Exactly. That's what I was
You're
gonna say.
eventually not going to be able to gear enough toughness and enough damage at the same time. It's just not possible. So they're
Well, and it's the reason why the Witch Doctors and Demon Hunters are so successful right now, because that's pretty much what they're doing with the Sentry builds and with the Pet Doctor builds. So
Exactly.
it's just a matter of trying to find that balance. But really, with the Wizard right now, I mean, like they did a lot of skill changes, a lot of buffs to a lot of the spenders, and it looks really good on paper. But when you get in and you try the new channeling spells, it's bad, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Disintegrate and Ray of Frost and Arcane Torrent. Like these are viable builds that have been working on live. And, you know, they're not T6 necessarily. Some of them are with the right gear, but now like they start at a certain DPS and ramp up by DPS per second to a maximum that's way above what they were doing on live. The problem with that is you can't stand still for 8 seconds to get up to 400,000 % weapon damage because arcane beams and stuff. Like there's just no way you're going to stand there for 5 seconds on a wizard and be able to survive. So like they've really got to look at that ramp up and either make it quicker or make it maybe start higher and then ramp up. I don't know, but it's definitely feeling more like
make it a buff. So you stand for 2 seconds. You've got your buff to it, so it starts at that 2 second damage. The buff only lasts for maybe 2 seconds itself or whatever, but you can move and start channeling again. You know, if they did something where it degraded over time. But you're right. I play a Disintegrate wizard in Softcore, and I found that the Ice Beam offhand in Hardcore, and so I've been running that and having a blast with it. But there's no way either of those builds is going to make it into 2.1.
Yeah, it's literally from survivability. Like the DPS is nice if you can get it to ramp up, but it's going to take a full 7 to 8 seconds for a ramp up before you get that high DPS. And
So
then on top of that, you have Explosive Blast is really the only spender that has high enough DPS to be competitive. I mean, the Explosive Blast damage is just absolutely insane. It's 1,655% with Time Bomb, but upwards of 945%. Whereas with spells like Arcane Orb, 435%. That's nothing at all. Or even Meteor is not even close to that either. So it's like I understand that you're a little closer, so the damage needs to be higher for Explosive Blast, but really all spenders should be where Explosive Blast are and maybe move Explosive Blast up even higher.
But Explosive Blast is the cooldown skill, so they'll give you high damage on cooldown skills.
Yeah, but so is Meteor. So is Meteor Molten Impact.
Molten Impact, which is comparable damage, but the regular Meteor is not. I agree. They need to increase the damage. They need to increase the damage on a lot of the melee skills in the game for both the Monk and the Barbarian, because it's dangerous going in there to hit. You need to be able to do a lot more damage, and they just haven't quite gotten that balanced to make them able to do enough damage in comparison to the Crusader.
And it's still early builds too. So keep in mind this is all PTR stuff. It's not final. It's not going to be final. We've got time to worry about it. But I think they're on the right track for some of the classes. Monk needs a little more work, and I'd really like the Wizard's other elements besides fire to be looked at, just because it'd be nice to have a little more variety there. But aside from that, I'm really anxious to see what they got coming.
I have a suggestion for the Wizard. They could change one skill and make it more appropriate. If they change Disintegrate to Disintegood, would it seem like it was working the way it should?
It is pretty accurate there.
Pretty much, yeah.
But what if they gave Arcane a power just for the Wizards, like what Black Hole, the last one, Supernova or whatever, does, where it increases your damage? Make some type of buff for Arcane that's built into the class. Maybe you pick a passive, and it actually increases all your Arcane damage by using Arcane. So you could build something other than the Fire Wizards that everyone has.
And see, I agree with that, but the problem, and I know they're probably having this problem with the testing, is that with Arcane and with Cold, you have a lot more CC. There's none with Fire, so that's why the damage for Fire is so much higher to compensate for that. But now it's ended up being this big teeter-totter of just trying to balance damage against CC, against survivability, and Wizards are just kind of all a whack right now.
But they're awesome up to T4.
Oh
so-
yeah, all the classes are fun up
Well,
to
I'm telling you,
T4.
if you haven't seen the Gale Hydra builds doing like the higher greater rifts, check that out. It's pretty cool. It's just I don't know. I just miss fireball sorceresses from Diablo 2, and like I play Meteor. Even right now on live, I'm playing Molten Impact Rune with Conflag builds, and it just feels more cast oriented. I'm doing a lot more skills without having to spam buttons like in CM. So it's nice. I don't want to cast a Hydra and watch it kill stuff. Like I really want to do more than that. I think it's a good add-on, but I want to see him tweak more spenders to add it on to Hydra.
The thing I always liked in Diablo 2 with Hydra was it had the 3-second cooldown between them, and so it paired really well with whatever Arcane Orb or other, I don't remember the skills anymore. It's been so long, but it was just fun. You'd cast this, and then you'd spam two or three class of whatever your quick thing was, and then you'd spam, and then you pop another Hydra out. I liked the mixture of attacks and the DOT stuff and the longer stuff and the other things back when they were like tri-tree wizards in Diablo 2, and then that all got changed with synergies anyway. But
Right.
I don't object to having a sentry once in a while or having a Hydra or whatever. These stationary turrets. But it's fun to do other stuff mixing in with that. It seems wrong to me for Demon Hunters and Witch Doctors to be all about just tanky
They
stuff.
should
and
be a supplement to your damage, not your main source of damage.
Exactly. Right. Precisely. That's how I feel about it.
And when I first read the Marauders, when it was the new set, it wasn't out yet. I was like, awesome! You're going to be able to drop a sentry, and every 5 seconds, it's going to shoot out a really powerful attack for you. No, it alternates between the two spenders that you have, and you don't even have to do anything.
Well, and that's the problem too right now with the whole Hydra build. Hydra's not even proccing the new Firebird set on PTR. So once that starts happening, it's going to be
gosh.
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. Because they're finding right now if you hit a mob with fire, that dot starts ticking, but then even if you die or go back to town, as long as somebody keeps fighting the mob and adds fire damage to it, it refreshes your dot for you. So I don't think that's intended. I'm not sure, but it's getting pretty ridiculous. But that's what
It's a
PTR
nice party
is for.
feature, though.
Oh yeah, no, the buff is insane for party, but I don't know.
That could actually be interesting if you were like, okay, looking for a group, I need someone with fire damage to pair with my wizard.
Yeah.
I need a tank. I need a pole monk who can tank and has 1 point of fire damage. And that way I can just throw something and you can do all the work.
Well,
I'll
and
stand
see
in the
now
back
that
and
has become something interesting too for the wizard because fire damage in general refreshes the dot. So you're looking for weapons with fire damage, even if you're running a fire build. You're not trying to stack elemental exposure anymore. You're trying to get spells and weapons that the base attack is going to do fire damage, so that you can add on to it.
Yeah, but I thought the elemental just came from except for elemental exposure. That was the exception. I thought the effect was only your skill damage.
No, it actually works on weapons too. On live right now, I use a Thunder Fury with cold damage because that gives me my fourth stack.
Well, I mean, I know for elemental exposure.
If it's cool and it changes things, it's probably a bug, and they'll just take that out.
I know for elemental exposure, but I'm talking about for other stuff. I think just for that skill. It was intentional for that because people said, well, we can't run 4 different, spells that we're going to cast and target the same minion.
Right.
What is this, Diablo 2?
Right. That's going to take too much work. We want our games easy. I like to just run around and have things die.
Yeah, there's only 6 buttons on the console, therefore we only have 6 skills in Diablo 3, right?
We're all PTR. We're all testing for the console, so.
Yeah, really. We've just been doing a 2.5-year beta for the console, which is coming out finally later this summer.
Yep.
Wait, this is a beta? I thought I was getting paid for this. I wouldn't have suffered through vanilla if I had known.
Yeah, the vanilla was just a 2-year beta for the Reaper of Souls, so that's how these things work.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, we're descending into mockery, so it's probably time to call this a go. Thanks for your time, guys. You've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diabloinkgamers.com, and my guests, our first-time guests,
Empty1?
Nerdwords?
Nerdwords and Empty1. I was going to let you say it because you guys can say I'm cool. Thanks for your time, guys, and you're almost like you get your first gold star. You've gotten your level 1 podcast achievement.
Excellent.
And for at least one of you, this was the highlight of your Diablo career, so you can now die happy.
Moo. Moo? Moo? Moo?